Hello, welcome to my channel, Devinrex for Art here. Today I'm going to be making some Gelliprints to incorporate into this collage that I did for hashtag Makers Creative Collab for August, hosted by PM Artist Studios, and the theme was Eclectic Evolution. I was inspired by Dee Dee Willingham to do a reverse collage piece in an altered book, and I will link her below. And I was going to incorporate pieces of this calendar page into the water aspect, but then I decided I would make my own Gelliprints. These are the main stencils I use. This first set is from PM Artist Studios, and it's called Sydney Z, and it's more of a mask. The other stencil I use quite a bit is this tumbleweed stencil designed by Joan Smithies for istencils.com under Patty Tolley Parrish. So I felt these gave sort of like a eclectic yet oceany kind of vibe, and I picked out some colors inspired by this fractal in this calendar page. I have a teal, like a dark royal type blue, a copper, Nico Azo gold, and a white. I do add another blue later because I wanted to really get that color scheme. So here I'm just adding a couple of the colors together, a couple of the blues, and I'm going to put on the stencil, and then I lift up the stencil and brayer it over the rest of the surface. Patricia and Mariah from PM Artist Studios, they call this a shadow technique, so it gives cool randomness to it. And here I'm adding the bronze with a little bit of that fluid acrylic from Golden. It's a Nico Azo gold, and I just want, again, I don't want it too even, I want it a bit modeled. And I put down the stencil again. I use this craft foam that has sort of a wavy pattern to it to really push down onto it, sort of like a modified shadow technique, I guess. And we let that dry. A few minutes later, I use just the craft white to pick it up. The reason I'm mainly using craft paints is that in this collage, I will be using colored pencils over top. However, after I thought about it, I could have used any paints because I do apply the collage pieces, the Gelliprints, with a matte medium, which does provide a good surface for colored pencils anyhow. So I wouldn't have had to stick with craft paints, but you know what? They're economical, might as well use them up. And here we did the white with a little bit of turquoise or teal, and we're picking it up a few minutes later once it's had a chance to set. And I like the colors here. I don't end up using this one in the collage, but I really like this print. I think it's kind of cool. I like the reflective gold. You can see here it didn't quite match the color scheme, so I'm going to try again. And it's fun, you know, playing. So let's just keep going. So this time I start with the copper and the quinacridone nickel azo gold. That's a mouthful. So it's a high flow acrylic. I will link that one below. And now I'm going to put on the other stencil, and you can see on the right that craft foam has sort of a wavy pattern. I use that to pick up some of the paint and leave an extra pattern within the stencil, if that makes sense. So I want a lot of that copper removed because I don't want the print to look too coppery. You'll see it does look too coppery, but it's still pretty. And I'm picking up with the dark blue. This is actually Ultra Blue Deep by Americana DecoArt. And this is a folk art teal. And a little bit of white is on there too. And I really want a mottled sort of appearance, so I kind of did blue on the left, more of teal, because I want to give myself a color range of options for my collage, because maybe I didn't like one side of the print, perhaps I'd like the other. This way it gives you options. And I'm just picking these up with copy paper. I didn't want to use thick paper because my collage, I didn't want the paper too thick. I didn't want to use deli paper or tracing paper because I did want it to be opaque. I didn't want it to disappear. So here's that print, and it's okay. Like, I like it. I didn't use this in the collage either, but it's kind of cool. So we're getting there. I'm happy with this blue color, but it's still a bit too metallic coppery. All right, so now we start with the blue, and then I decide to make it a bit darker, adding a bit of craft black paint. And I'm just being very haphazard putting this on. Doesn't need to be even. And we're going to use the this mask again, and that shadow technique that PM Artist Studios dubbed it the shadow technique. And here's this needlepoint plastic canvas that I use quite a bit. I will link that below. People often ask me about that. I like how it gives like the circles and kind of gives sort of a nautical feel. Adding a bit of that wavy craft foam texture here and there. And then we let that dry, and I pick it up with white and the teal. And something else? No, just, oh, it's too much teal, so we take a bit of that teal off. I wanted a bit of contrast because there's already teal in the first layer. It's a little bit is drying on me, it's getting a little gloopy, so I just stop there and I put my paper on and I pick it up. Even though it's not full coverage on the paper, it doesn't matter because I was picking up with white anyhow, so the white shows through, that's okay because I was using white. And then this one didn't have enough of the copper. Well, I don't think I put any copper in this, did I? So I was seeing if it would be a closer match, but I decided I definitely need that copper and that gold color. So we try again. We're getting closer. Every time we're getting a little closer to what we want. That dark blue and the black. And then we put the stencil on. And we pick it up with just the plain old copy paper again. Giving it a good rub. And I wait a few minutes before the reveal. That's a cool black and white print. And then before taking the stencil off, I put the DecoArt gold and the copper, that's hard to say, and I put it just over top through the stencil. So I'm hoping I'll get just a little hint of the copper, but not too much. And I'm using that craft foam with the weavy sort of pattern again to pick up a lot of the extra. Pick up the stencil. And we're going to pick this one up with, once it's dry, with, I think this is where I added more of an aqua blue. So this is a new color I just brought in. So that is just a pool blue by Craftsmart. And I'm adding a bit more texture with the mask. Let that dry, and now I'm picking it up with the white craft paint. This craft paint's getting a little old. You can see it's a little bit crusty, but that's okay. All right, let's pick this up. Rub, 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 let it dry, and peel it up. So this one I'm very happy with. I like how the blue has different tones in it. I like the curly nature of the tumbleweed with the dark blue, the black blue. So I was really happy with this one. I do use this one in the collage. So I'm just bringing it up to show you. It does have a little bit of that shimmer. You can see all the different textures in there, sort of distressed. So it doesn't match that fractal exactly. It's not a fractal, but it gives a similar vibe to me. And here I also pulled out these other masks. I think they're called Orb or something like that. And I'm going with that blue-black combination because it seems to be working well. Spread that around on the plate. Get a nice even coating. And then I'm going to put down the stencils. And I had pre-planned how I was going to put them. Even though I pre-planned it, I kind of messed it up, but that's okay. And I wasn't sure about using that needle point canvas thing, so I just pick up a lot of the excess paint. So when I pick up the paint, it leaves the color I put down behind the stencils, obviously. And that's a cool black and white print. I might use that later. And I'm picking this up with the DecoArt Gold, Quinacridone DecoArt Gold, that's a mouthful, and that bronze. Actually, I don't think I pick it up with this. I think I spread this. Yeah, I'm not picking it up. I'm spreading it onto the plate, and then I'm going to add some more texture and pick it up with a different color. This was a while ago. I can't remember all the details, but yeah, so I'm using that again, just that wavy pattern to go with the water theme, that craft foam just from the dollar store. I'm picking up quite a bit of that bronze and gold because I didn't want it too goldy. I want it more blue. Really going to town with this craft foam. Oh, sorry about that jiggly camera action there. Right, pull this up and there's just a little bit of that blue-black left over. And here's the brayer off sheet. I just used my brayer and put a bit of gold on top of that. So let that dry and we'll pick it up with just that blue. So it's not a teal blue, it's just more of a powder blue called pool blue. And this is a very light coating and it's starting to dry. So I just kind of roll this stencil over top, give it some texture. The theme from today, I think, is texture, adding visual texture. I'm going to use some just craft white paint to pick this up, and I put way too much paint on there, so I'm just slowly brayering off that paint so it's not too thick. And we'll just pick it up with that copy paper again while it's still wet. Rub, rub, rub. That's my fancy Baron, which is just a lid that I use to rub against the paper. And once that's set and dry, I pull it up. And I think this one's pretty cool. And I do end up using this one in the collage, so I like that. So there's some copper and gold, not too much, a little shimmery. I feel it matched the color palette of that Fractal and of the collage itself pretty well. Here I think I'm pulling in the other print. And there's the two that I'm happiest with. They're not exact, replicas of that Fractal, but that's where I drew the inspiration for these Gelliprints. Here's a review of the ones that didn't make the cut, but they will be used for something else. Here's some of the extra papers I got from, removing paint through the stencil, brayering off paint, some brayering, putting the stencil under the paper and brayering off, and then a lot of, this was on a tissue paper, a lot of the brayering off I did there and clean the stencil off. Here's a quick review of the stencils we used. So if you want to see how to do this type of reverse collage, I really recommend watching Dee Willingham. But I just wanted to show how I used the Gelliprints. I just tore random little pieces and I scattered them throughout the area that's going to be with the water. And it just helps give sort of I found it gave a mysterious aspect to the collage, like you didn't know what was under the surface. Maybe it was like a sea monster, maybe it's just the waves, but I didn't have to rely on my acrylic painting technique to make the water interesting. It sort of gave me a starting point. And here's just adding it with the matte medium. Dee talks about coating your page, the back of your paper, putting it down, coating the front of your paper with the matte medium, and smoothing it out or scraping it down. And so that's all the little pieces of Gelliprint. So that's my final collage piece once I've added all the acrylic paint and colored pencils. You can see my other video about that, and hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.